Hi everyone, wow, such a big crowd. Welcome. Thank you for coming to our workshop on human-centered deliberation for young professionals. I'm Madeline Onori and I'm here with Ashley Onori, Peter Gollagher and Vineeta Maruti.
Hi everyone, so we're going to start with a little bit of activity, get everyone up and moving. Hands up if I've given you an image card. Lovely. So I would like everyone with an image card to get up off their seats and place it under the generation that you think it belongs to. We've got some indicative born years. It's not an exact art. I would like everyone else to help with suggestions or challenge them a little bit. And we've got a couple of minutes to do this. Happy for some...
Sorry.
Oh yeah.
Are you just pointing to where they are?
So we've got Gen Z over here. That's the youngest, millennial over here, Gen Y X over here, and baby boomer over here.
Did you give me this because it's my generation?
No, I didn't choose. Just don't want to offend anyone. I didn't particularly give cards to specific people.
Sorry. Hey.
And feel free to change the cards once you've put them down. I'm happy for you to...
It's going to video it, right? Almost done? Yeah.
I'll do a little bit of a wrap up. 1 minute.
Oh, sorry.
Got 1 minute to go, everyone. Are we sure about Nirvana on Gen Z?
Sorry.
Feel free to ask people for help.
Ash.
We're done?
10 seconds.
10 seconds to go.
Which doesn't take a lot.
And we're done, Ash. We're done. Let's get everyone back to their seats.
All right, everyone, make your final decision and head back to your seats, please.
Hello.
All right everyone, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, looks like we've had some good arguments. I've seen a few things move. Vine has finally gone to Gen Z, I'm glad. We've got, the Kingswood car and Gen X. Is anyone, okay, interesting. All right, we'll wrap that up here and I'll give it back to Madeline. Thank you everyone for participating.
So as you could see from this activity, I'm sure, and I could see all your deliberation, each generation has a lot of differences, and some are harder to identify. So we all have our own assumptions and biases and life experiences to bring into play. Today we're going to focus on a specific situation regarding engaging young professionals. We chose to present this experience with you as we feel it may have been something that you went through as a young professional. Maybe you were part of a committee like ours, or maybe you're thinking about setting one up in your organisation. Many of us as engagement professionals, particularly as consultants, have our thinking oriented around getting engagement right for the particular project we're working on. We forget to look internally on how we're doing engaging within our organisation. I've seen a few presentations so far during the conference talking about how we need to adapt to recruit new professionals in our fields, and how we need to be prepared for change coming in the future. This talk on engaging future thought leaders also relates to this big picture.
Cool, thank you.
So as young professionals, or YPs as we call them at GHD, we like to get involved in social clubs as part of the first steps integrating into a company. I'm part of the committee at GHD that organises events for hundreds of young professionals. We do things like lunch and learns, networking events, fundraising, and of course, social events at pubs and bars. And the social club has been around since the 90s and have been hosting pretty much the same events every year. But as a generation, as millennials, we feel we are a bit different to those before us. We are particularly interested in developing our skills, and we feel we need to be more proactive about our careers. We may be young, and some of us are fresh out of uni, but we still want to be taken seriously within our organisation. And we're not exactly what other generations may think of us, that we just want to go out to social events to drink together. More than ever, young professionals are socially responsible, but that makes us critical of incentives that are handed down to us. There are activities that may have worked for years before on other generations, but it may not be based on what we actually want to do now. I signed up to be part of a young professional committee at GHD. Yep. And recently I spoke to them about some of the problems with our committee and what we could do to fix them. One of the major problems we identified was that the activities we're in charge of managing aren't based on evidence from the wider group that we organise for. The activities are prescriptive. The direction comes from top down, and our level of influence in these activities is quite narrow. We are asked to follow the event calendar of last year and the year before that. But we see there's a problem here, especially us engagement professionals. Do the young professionals we represent actually enjoy our activities and events, or would they rather we invest in something else? We need to find out what they want within our organisation, and we need to tailor our activities around that. But a major hurdle in this is that young people are hard to engage, and even us, we realise that too. But for young professionals needing to make decisions for other young professionals, one engagement methodology stuck out as best to pursue.
So after discussing these problems, we landed on human-centred design. It's a methodology that focuses on the end user from the very beginning, and it aims to satisfy the user with a functional yet emotionally meaningful design. It usually has 3 components. It has to have collaboration, empathy to understand your user's motivations, and also experimentation by testing your hypotheses. Part of our problem is that we have low engagement among our young professionals. So to find out what our community wants, we need to actively engage them. Especially due to the differences within our teams, our disciplines, the geographic location and demographic spreads, it's really important to us to make this a collaborative effort. Other young professionals need to learn with and work with other young professionals. We want to move away from a generalized social-based calendar and from doing the same things that we always do to something that's more careers and development-based, something that is a bit more holistic that captures our different needs. It's important to us to make sure that as many people as possible have a say in this deliberative process. We wanted more tailored decision-making. So we looked at the user data, talked to young professionals, and developed user profiles. We wanted to understand this group, who they were, and their individual quirks. Because of this, we emphasized that deliberative aspect of the human-centered design process, the collaborative discussion. We conducted preliminary user research, as you can see here, to understand the average GHD young professional. We collected data to find out who they were, their backgrounds, and get as much insight as we could into their values, their opinions, and their interests, in order to before we even thought about engaging them. We tested this in Victoria on a smaller scale, but ideally we'd like this to be replicated in different organisations. So the average Victorian young professional is quite likely a graduate or fresh to the workforce, with almost half of them under 25 years old. There's quite a big gender split, which is perhaps unsurprising for an engineering company, but it would be interesting to see where that figure goes in later years. We also looked at research by Deloitte to get just a broader idea of what young Australians are like. And we found that by 2025, millennials will make up 3/4 of the world's population. There is a higher mistrust of businesses in general and a belief that corporations just want to make more money. And that kind of reflects the need for businesses to aim for a broader balance and positive impacts across society, the environment, and their workforce. All of these factors, if not accounted for properly, will just make our communication with young professionals even worse. They're a hugely diverse group, and you can see exactly why they'd be difficult to engage. Essentially, our problem is that management doesn't know what we want and our people aren't telling us. We need to engage with young professionals and we want you to help us create a solution. Your challenge today, we need significant reasons to demonstrate to management why our group's activities need to change. We're a community with very diverse interests and we want activities that reflect that. So, firstly, help us figure out what we need to know about our young professionals prior to engaging with them. We've done the preliminary research as you've seen, but what else do we need to know? Then help us create a one-year engagement strategy to engage the young professionals and ultimately improve our social club.
Great, so your first very short activity that we're going to run, well, second actually, V, if you want to be the scribe. Firstly, we're going to think about what we need to find out first. So this will inform our one-year engagement plan, which we'll do in the next activity. Can I get some suggestions about questions we would ask the young professional group to start with? Very good start. Anyone else? What would you like to change?
If you'd like to put your hands up, I've got a mic here so I can come to you.
You got it? Okay, cool.
Tell me about an activity that you attended and what you liked about it.
Okay, so some feedback on past activities?
Yeah, on something specific.
Specific.
About, yeah.
Okay. Got one down here.
Does anyone think we need to find out a bit more about their demographic or what kind of...
Yeah, what sort of things do you do when you're not at work?
Okay,
That's
yep.
great.
And we've got another couple up here, Peter.
Sorry, let's jump across here while I'm at the back.
Best way to communicate with you?
Best way to communicate with you. Oh, turns out everyone knows about community engagement. Surprising.
Why are you involved in the group?
Why are you involved in the group? How much time do we have, Peter? How are we going?
We've got 2.5 minutes.
Cool. Okay, yep.
How often do you want to get together? So based on the current program, are there too many activities, too few activities? Are they too big or too small?
Okay. Frequency.
If you had an issue or a concern, who would you talk to about it or how would you make it known?
Okay.
What do you want to get out of it? What are your objectives for attending?
Objectives. Peter, we've got a lady up here. Oh, your same one. Oh, okay. Sorry.
We're all in agreement.
Okay. All right, we'll just get another couple and then we'll go to the next activity. It means you get more time.
What can you give?
What can you give? Oh, could you repeat the last one?
What do you want to get out of the activity?
What do you want to get? Yeah.
Sorry.
Yes, could you repeat yours? What can you give? And then one more.
Will you share your findings with us, the oldies?
I think you're
Maybe.
very good. Might be overestimating our engineers that we deal with, but anyway. Cool, all right. Peter, over to you.
So, okay, over to the mic. So now that we've got all these great ideas up here, and thanks Ash for holding that first half of the session, now it's over to all of you. You've got pieces of paper on your tables, butcher's paper and pens. It'd be great if you could have a think about how do we engage with these young professionals based on these questions we've just sort of thought up. And let's get together our one-year engagement plan. Now we'll be coming around the room sort of helping and fostering that as we go along.
Go.
And then once we've done that, we'll come back to each table and we'll ask you for your number one top engagement strategy, I suppose, engagement method, and why you picked that, thinking about the fact that it is youth engagement and that it is this problem specifically, so young professionals. So we'll give you about 4 minutes to do that.
lost mine, but it's like,
Oh,
yeah, mine's failed. That's why I was
oh, okay.
trying to figure out how to get it on. Do you want to
Oh,
be with that?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, nice one.
Is that okay?
Nice
Good?
one.
Yeah, you did well. You did
Okay.
really well.
Sorry.
Sorry, guys.
People in the rows don't want to write.
What's up? What's up?
If you're standing in the rows and would like to contribute, feel free to surround some of the tables.
Around how we can answer these questions. I know it's only 4 minutes, but yeah, it's just if maybe even just one thing that you think would be a really good way to start this discussion. I think we need to move around a little bit. Okay.
Oh,
Are you done?
I'm just going to finish up on the lapel on the
Lectern?
yeah, the lectern.
Oh, rightio.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sorry. How are we going here? We all good? We all fantastic? All right, great. How's everything going? Yeah, good. Yeah? No worries. Fantastic. All right, cool. Oops, sorry. Oh, you guys are the furthest along. Good job. I'm not going to help. I'm not going to help. Off to a good start, I see. Fantastic, thank you.
Just 2 more minutes left on that one, guys.
Sorry. Is this mic on again?
Yeah, sorry, I was just talking to the other gentleman and didn't realise I missed it. So.
No, it's all good.
Yeah, it's on. It'll be
Right, fantastic. No, it's all good. Good thing I had this one as a backup. Yeah. Oh, 2 minutes for the...
Wrap it up? Yeah.
Okay. No worries. All right.
So we'll just give that maybe another 30 seconds.
Yeah, because I want to sort of go around and have a really quick once-off with each table, and then we'll wrap up. And so it might be maybe 3 minutes. Is that okay? So we're like, they've just told us to just wrap it up. So what I'll do is I'll go around quickly.
Yeah.
I've just said half.
Yeah, cool.
I'll just call. I'll turn this off though, otherwise it'll start beeping. And
I'll stand up here to finish off.
yeah, cool. And we'll get a selfie. Do you want to bring the girls over for the selfie?
Go do a selfie as well.
All right.
10 seconds.
All right. Is it on now?
Yeah.
All right, fantastic. Let's finish there.
Shh. I don't have to do the clapping thing. I feel like I'm in preschool.
So we're going to start at this table here, my table. Now I want to talk to one of the YPs, if you guys feel comfortable talking on what we've just discussed. Yeah? It's being pushed over this way. So, number one thing that you guys sort of found, getting a bit of feedback, sorry. There we go. Would you like to speak?
Oh, okay.
Just your number one element to what you think would help solve the problem and why that is.
Okay, we felt because of the target group it would need to be online or digital. It would need to have an element of sort of credibility, so it would need some sort of branding or badging so that it's got a bit of an official look. But something, the key message, the prompt, that has to be catchy. It has to be something that kicks in with values, maybe, and then have a range of other comms that are building on existing channels, a bit of push out alerts, maybe a planner, online planner. But we sort of wondered too, what's the purpose of the engagement? Are we trying to understand what the purpose of the social outcomes or activities are. Is it about fostering up-and-comers? Is it about social? Is it about development? Is it about problem-based? So really trying to understand what would bring people together and then work out how the heck that happens.
And we were also very lucky because we've got a group of these beautiful young people here, and we asked them, how would you want to be communicated with? You know, what would we need? So I think actually asking people to begin with would be great.
Thank you. I really like that idea of the online calendar. If that was integrated into my Outlook, it'd be perfect. Right, so now on to the next group. Kylie looks very keen.
Thanks, Pete. So we had some similar points there too. We sort of thought that we'd have like a phase one, how do they want to be communicated with? So not everybody wants to go the digital or face-to-face, or so we need to provide a range of options for people depending what works for them. But then also providing digital, so through digital engagement there's opportunities there maybe to do the wiki approach. And there was a discussion about that yesterday. I wasn't at that session, but that's another option. You've got your online forums, workshops, lunch and learn, develop the social calendar through an interactive session with them. So just working out exactly what will fill that calendar in the best way that meets everybody's needs, I suppose. And then of course, interviews as well. So if people don't like the group approach, you could have some targeted sort of interviews and smaller sort of approach there.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. Now, how much time do we have? We wind it up? All right, we'll do one more table. You guys look pretty keen. Who would like to speak?
I sort of challenged our group. We automatically assumed digital methods, but as a young person, I just want to say don't always assume young people want to engage digitally, so I agree with you in that, and mix a number of methods. But I suggested perhaps if you could identify some champions in a professional context within your business, some of the leaders and decision makers that you work with that drive engagement in a face-to-face context, in a really qualitative discussion, you might get some really valuable feedback. So I was thinking a program of deep and intimate focused discussions with your leaders.
Yeah, fantastic. And I have to agree on that purely for the fact that I feel like often digital is just sort of this thing that we fall back on, and really it's not the be-all, end-all. There's so much more to that in youth engagement. So yeah, fantastic point. Thank you. I'll wrap over to Ash.
All right, to wrap up, thanks for participating. Hope you had some fun. Hope you got a bit of a new perspective from today's activities, and enjoy the rest of the session. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And my dad as well was quite important in this space. Forgotten that. I was quite long, wasn't it? I'll come up with a shorter one next time. First up, is it there? Good. First up, I just wanted to do an interactive moment. So if you were a smaller class, and I've had some big classes myself, but
Another class, Dominic, another class. Not school.
I'm sorry, you can't take the teacher out of me, I'm afraid. But if you could just talk to the person next to you and describe, I'm just going to give you 20 seconds to do this. I'm going to be very strict about the timings. Just describe the project that you've worked on most recently, okay? I'm just going to give you 20 seconds to do that. So, there we go. That's the prompt. Off you go. Have you got the catch box, Shane? Good. If you just set it up, Okay. 3, 2, 1. Waterfall. What noise is a waterfall, mate? Kind of shh. I worked with a primary school recently and they waterfall, so next time. Thank you, that worked. Now what I'd like you to do is the same person who was describing their project. I'd like you to do it in terms that a 7-year-old can understand. Okay? So, go. Just 20 seconds. I gave you a bit more than that last time. Is that working okay? Yeah, you got it. Yep, cool, thanks. Okay. 3, 2, 1, waterfall. Waterfall. Shh, very good. The guys from TechCrunch stole my thunder. I've got one of these that I use in our school sessions as well. What did you find that was different? Okay, how was the experience different? What did you do the second time around? Somebody. Watch the coffee. Yep.
Simple language.
Simple language, exactly. Anything else that you put in or took out? Yeah?
Oh, we told a story.
Ah, very good. But building a sort of a picture, maybe. Just one more person over there. What was that, sorry? Oh, no jargon, very good, exactly. Nothing technical, because we lapse into that, especially when we're talking to people that kind of know the space that we work in. So it's plain language, isn't it? It's keeping words simple, reducing the number of words maybe. Using visual language, so that is the telling a story bit, isn't it? It's kind of conjuring up a picture, or if you can use images in your communications, that's important as well. But this isn't just for kids. Now, we're talking about school engagement today, and I've learned a lot from working with young people and having a couple of them at home. But we can use this in our communications generally, so I hope there's some takeaways from that as well today. Being a teacher, back in England, Ofsted, the regulatory body, made us put a learning objectives out. I think it's quite useful just to go through what we're going to pick up today, hopefully. Key drivers for school engagement. Why do we do this? Common themes and opportunities. So what does it look like? What ways could you make this connection with young people? And I'll talk a little bit about my experience back in the UK and England, and also what I've been up to lately in Australia. So I'm going to put this back to you again. Maybe I'll give you 30 or 40 seconds this time, but could you just discuss, maybe as a table or in pairs, whichever you prefer, why we would bother with this? Why do we want to engage with young people? What would be the reasons for that? So if you could just have a chat, anything that comes to mind. What would you like? What would we talk to you?
Different opinions with like a young
Yeah. So they don't know what makes you tick. So it's kind of a lot of the work that we do, things we work on, are for the future. So. Okay, 3, 2, 1, waterfall. Okay, I don't know where the catch box is, but has anybody got anything that they came up with as a table or in a pair that they'd like to share with the rest of the room? What were your drivers? Over here?
I was talking about how we were going to structure project and
Yep.
actually be open for 10 years.
Yep.
So people that we engage with, a lot of the sessions and things that we run
Yeah.
attract an older audience.
Yeah.
And some of the people that actually come joke about how they want to live.
Yeah.
So we really want to get more involved with these young people who
Yeah.
are actually going to be benefiting from it.
You've nailed it, yeah. That's one reason, but that's very strong. Very, very much in front of mind for me. Anything else? Anything different to that? Yep.
And then putting a perspective of lived experience,
Mm.
you just don't get, because you can't live in the same space. So there's strategies and complex issues and ideas and opportunities, and it makes sense. Getting the satisfaction surveys, we ask the members if we want to understand what other people want in their spaces and things and programs.
Yeah. Yeah, we're building lots of these things for them, aren't we? That's a lot of my experience on major projects, and I'm always thinking, well, lots of the people we're talking to won't benefit so much from this, not certainly for as much of their life. They're a great local hub. When we work with schools and teachers, principals, those teachers and senior managers in the school will be very influential figures in the community, very likely. So they're a great conduit to get through to that community. on a very straightforward level, we need to engage them anyway. We kind of do in community engagement, but not always in a really embedded, connected way. But that is important that we share with them the impact of works and make sure that they have a safe journey to school. But this is the point that you made about future users, isn't it? Their children's voice. They're going to use these systems. We should listen to them. If they say it should be like this and not like that, you know, what do they want? Do they want free Wi-Fi? Do they want it to be accessible in different ways? Do they want compartments on a train that are enclosed rather than open plan? We've had these ideas come up before. And one of the things that, and this is really important for the Department of Education, certainly in Victoria and I'm sure elsewhere in Australia, we create learning experiences that can connect with real life as employers, as people involved in major projects, in a way that teachers just can't offer. They can't put that in the curriculum. But we can help them do that if we're clever and if we get the right people on board and talk to the teachers and young people about what works for them. And last but not least, and it's this bit about how long these projects take to run, just one project or several projects stretching out into the future, they can work on these projects and we need them to develop certain skills that help us deliver on these projects. So that's a key point I'm going to come back to later on as well. So what does it look like? A few examples. There are many, 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 and it depends on the project and the locality and the community as to what exactly you might want to do. What does this say to you, these shoes? What does that sort of evoke, that type of shoe, let's say? Sorry? Yep. Outdoors, steel toe caps linking to safety as sort of a theme that we often work with. Has anybody heard of the Melbourne Metro's Dumb Ways to Die campaign? Yeah. So that was a very visual, provocative actually way of showing the importance of safety around railways in that case. Back home in England, we've got this guy. I have a good sight. And if you really want to, you can hire a mascot suit that you can wear and take over into assembly to talk about your project. This was something the industry created. This wasn't just for a project. As part of something called the Considerate Constructor Scheme. And because a few years after they created IVA, they realised that was a bit stereotypical, having a bloke on a building site. So they also created On a Good Site. So just to address the balance a little bit there, which was really powerful. It took them 2 years to realise that, but these guys go great, but there are other ways. It's very visual, people talking about that particular project, but I've worked on lots of different ways of making safety fun, because intrinsically it isn't necessarily. But schools need to, they have a duty of care to young people to ensure that, you know, the kids are safe in school and on their way to school. So that's a link that you can make between a project that you're working on and the safety that's inherent in the project, and some messages and learning that young people need to pick up on. So kind of developing that point a little bit. So those are those shoes. And at this point, I'm going to need a volunteer to lend me a shoe. Thank you. Yes. Not that I've spoken to anybody about it beforehand. And I'm going to show you something. So there was a wonderfully named lady I used to work with called Awawu Olatane Salami. It took me a while to sort of get my mouth around her name. And, but she was brilliant. And she was from Hackney, which is a very ethnically diverse part of East London. I don't know if anybody's ever been there, and she was an engineer, and she was really enthusiastic to go into the school, and the school's actually in the area that she used to live in. And what she did was she went into a classroom, I think usually primary school she liked to work with, and she'd say, "What shoes do you think I take to work? What do you think I wear when I go out and do my job?" Bearing in mind they didn't know anything about where she was from and what she did, but while we looked like them, you know, she was from the same kind of background, she knew the local area. And which one do you think the kids would say? The pretty one, exactly. But she said, well, yeah, I do wear that one. I wear that into the office and, you know, when I'm doing my desk job. But I also wear this one a lot because I get out on site. And this is part of my job as an engineer, to understand the lay of the land and actually sort of get stuck in. You know, it's not very ladylike, but I don't mind wearing it because it keeps my feet safe, you know. So that was really simple and powerful thing. So sometimes, and there's something there in the fact that you need volunteers, and this is very important for the programs I'm working on now in Victoria, to actually go in and take the messages into school, okay? So, especially people who are younger, who are from a similar background, that all really helps. So that was a whirlwind. That's a message about diversity as well. And that's a really strong thing that we try to include in our programs. I didn't put the stiletto up on the screen, but there we go. Next up, what are the missing letters? We heard a lot about this sort of stuff this morning, didn't we? It was brilliant. What are the missing letters in there? We've got an S and an E. Yep. T and an M, very good. Well done. And does anybody know what the T and the M or the S or the E actually stand for? Almost like a mantra. Well done, very good. It's becoming very current, isn't it? It's a hot topic. And it's really important to school engagement programs because we know that these subjects help young people develop the skills that are needed for a lot of the infrastructure and transport projects that we're working on. So we talk a lot about that. Has anybody heard of an acronym that's a little bit like that, but slightly longer? Yeah, STEAM. And what's the A? Is arts, very good. So yeah, that's making it more creative. It sits really well with the stuff the guys from TechCrunch were talking about this morning. It's that sort of bringing in that sort of left field thinking, which really makes the science work in a project and showing that actually it's not just for geeks, in inverted commas, but for people from all sorts of interests and backgrounds. So STEM's really key. And the way that helps as well is that when you work with schools, you link to the curriculum. You're not asking the teachers and the school kids in that school to do something new. You're adding value. You're giving them something they need. They want to show real-world learning. And these subjects are really important. Federal government's pushing them big time in Australia. So that's something you can really connect with. And it makes what you're doing defensible. You're not just pushing out propaganda or information about the project. You're actually adding value to the kids' learning experience. So that's really, really important. I talk a lot about STEM. Not my background at all, but I think it's really interesting. What's the missing word? Livable. Is that a correct statement? No, it's the world's second most livable city, unfortunately. I think Vienna took the mantle not long ago. There wasn't much in the media about it. You might have missed that. The point here is that livability is something that works well with clients in Melbourne. We make that connection. I run sessions with kids where we talk about, right, let's make Melbourne a 30-minute city. What future transport systems do we need to put in this city to make it work better with this growing population? Obviously, that's a trend across the country. So there are other things you can link with. Sustainability is a strong one. Talking to somebody the other day about Department of Education here in Queensland and a plan to put solar panels in schools. So why not, as part of the community and school engagement within that, make sure that it links with the sustainability curriculum? My 6-year-old knows exactly what sustainability is. They talk that language. Coming back to technical jargon, that sustainability is not technical jargon. And in Melbourne, livability is very much a known term in schools. So make that link, make it relevant to the project. Also throw it wider so that it's about that theme, the city, the big picture, not just about the project. If it's just about the project, that can become a bit uncomfortable. We don't want to be seen to be doing that. It's adding value to the whole experience. Just very quickly, some examples. Co-design with HS2, we were developing a vision for the rolling stock. I think they've published it now. It takes a while. And I had an opportunity to go into some schools in Birmingham. And when I went into a girls' school, I gave them the challenge of saying, what do you want your future train to look like? And they came up with this. I don't know if you can read it very well on the screen. Probably see the name there. Carbonara, because it's fast to make. That was the key. Very low prices. Criticism of high speed in the UK has been that the pricing can be a bit inaccessible. That was important to them. I gave them a framework. They were thinking about cost. They were thinking about safety, accessibility, sustainability, the energy source. And they got stuck into it. They created a poster. They gave it a name. They personalised it. And Ria Chloe trains. I love the safety message at the bottom. Travel sickness will be sued unless you clean it. So there's a strong message there. Energy, they were looking at really detailed pricing structure. Old people music in the background in the carriage for old people. Probably the sort of music that I listen to, I bet. So that was a lot of fun. But seriously, I took these designs and sent them back to the customer experience team because we were still at the stage in the project where we could include this kind of feedback. And that's really powerful, isn't it? It's not just a paper. Sorry? How many were used? I don't know, I'm afraid, but I fed them back, workshopped it with some of the teams. So it takes a while. As I say, I don't know if the vision's been published, so it might not be there yet. But yeah, it's nice to make that connection with the real people. And then some of those customer experience team came into the sessions as well. So that's really valuable. Closer to home, on the Metro Tunnel project. Okay, perfect. Careers education. We work closely with the Department of Education. Coming back to this connection with real-world learning, they were keen to show what careers you could do on a project like this, or in any field of work, I guess. And on a project like Metro Tunnel, it's not just about the trains and the building site. There were lots of different things we could do. So we developed a session which was Careers Explorer. Of course, we got virtual reality downstairs in the visitor centre. That almost goes without saying these days, doesn't it? But we had a really focused, interactive session where the kids built up their own career profile. What did they like? What were they good at? And they started to relate that to jobs on the project that they didn't expect to be there, like being an archaeologist or an architect, working in multimedia. So they think, well, that's a bit like games, isn't it? And actually, we need those kind of skills and that kind of interest in the work that we do. So we sort of connect those worlds which actually otherwise might seem a bit distant apart. So that was just one of the things, lots of different things we're doing in Metro Tunnel, but the careers education angle was working really well. We've had thousands of students through now, and really fulfills a need that the schools have. So the teachers are very keen to sign up to that. Westgate Tunnel project. What's important here, not that it wasn't important with Metro Tunnel, is STEM. So we've really focused on that as a way of conveying what we're doing with the project, these fantastic tunnel boring machines coming through and the engineering in that and the technology that goes into it. How do we connect that to the electrical network? So we look at circuits that they do in school, but we're saying this is how we do it on a project level. This is how we power the TBM and the tunnel once it's operational. But one really big thing with Westgate that the project is very positive about and pushing out there already is social inclusion, and that can connect really well with a program like this. We focus on reaching schools with significant culturally and linguistically diverse communities, with large Indigenous groups in the school, schools with special needs. So we really focus on where the need is there the most, and schools with low socioeconomic status, and that's really powerful. This is Dr. Loz, Lauren Parker, but we call her Dr. Loz, and she's our delivery partner for Westgate Tunnel. And we're very excited to have her. She's one of the Australian 100 Women of Influence, recently announced by the Australian Financial Review. So she's an amazingly engaging scientist and educator, so we're very lucky to have her on board. And so she really brings the STEM very hands-on, very sensory, which works with a lot of the groups that we're targeting. And we do target primary schools as well as secondary, maybe even more so. And what I think you can take away from this, that this young boy that Loz is working with, if you're working on a 15-year project like High Speed 2, or if you know that you've got major projects stretching out into the future, he could be an apprentice before that's finished. And this is where we came from in England. And I think if you accept that these projects are happening for years and years, you really need to support the interest in subjects, the skills development, and the opportunity to make this young lad a future engineer if he wants to be. But just to put it out there and get them on board and early on. So it really is a very practical recruitment driver that we call the talent pipeline. So it's very much part of that. That's a strong reason for school engagement. So that about wraps it up.
All right, so today I'm here to talk about, in the theme of shaking it up, I've had the opportunity to work with a couple of councils in the last 12 months looking at youth strategies and involving youth strategies in developing multicultural action plans, council plans, community visions. And you constantly hear this, it's important that we hear from young people. We're not sure how do we hear from young people. We know that young people are dealing with a whole lot of challenges that perhaps are different to what we might have experienced and where we're at. So I thought there might be some insights here that might be worth sharing today. So just a little bit of, context is, youth voice, is it a fad or is it here to stay? And what I've been seeing in some of the research that's been coming out and policy papers, particularly focusing on Victoria, is that there is a certain interest in building stronger youth engagement. And it's not just amplifying voice opportunities. It's about building that relationship and that deeper connection. It's about trying to get it to that stage where we're getting to empowering and providing opportunities for more than a transaction and more than a one-off opinion. So we're looking at participation in not just youth-focused strategies and policies, but broader issues as well. In the school sector, I think there's censuses going on, checking what roles student voice is having in decision-making in schools around leadership opportunities, co-designing, peer-led feedback, and schools are becoming more accountable for actually demonstrating that as well. And then we have the Youth Affairs Council coming up with other strategies, trying to be advocates for young people and young people's voice, and the need that we have to engage with young people in our research, in our academic studies, our research institutions. And also that element that picking up on what was mentioned around skill development and meeting their needs, having something they connect to, so that it makes value, it adds value to communities, to organisations. One of the key reasons we also need to engage with young people, if we're talking about representative sampling and statistical significance and impact, is young people are a large percentage of our population and they're forecast to grow. So, it's an important stakeholder, particularly if things are taking some time to come to fruition, or if it's a service or a problem or a challenge or one of those wicked problems that we're trying to understand and deal with. We need to actually hear different people's views. And in Victoria, I don't know if we've got anyone here from Cardinia, Casey, Hume, Melton, Mitchell, Mornington Peninsula, Nillumbuk or Whittlesea, if we have anyone from those councils in here. Thank you. Those interface councils, we've got a fifth of our Victoria's young people living in those 10 council areas. And because of the nature of those interface councils, sort of straddling, not metro, sort of regional, rural, there's a lot of concerns going in those communities, particularly, generally for the community, but particularly for young people in relation to couch surfing and affordable housing. Family violence, and we're seeing some issues being raised around that and sort of giving it some opportunity to become a more community-aware issue. And the link between that and youth homelessness. Youth mental health, we've got a lot of emphasis on resilience and building resilience and empowerment, opportunity, participation, but we're still seeing some really sad statistics around those areas. We're seeing schools trying to deal with educational disadvantage, diversity, more complex problems are coming forward with children at younger ages. And that becomes a challenge for particularly youth services teams that used to focus on 12 to 18, 12 to 25, 10 to 25. Then we're finding that we need to align our youth strategies with our children's and family services strategies so that we actually have that transition from some sort of birth to independence. Transport disadvantage, different barriers to opportunities that come with living in those interface regional and rural areas, and youth justice becoming a problem as well. So I think it's important, if we're going to have these issues and they're there, and but we don't want to focus, we don't need to make them get caught up in it and think that we can't find solutions, but the best way to find solutions is to understand what's going on and asking young people, how can we work with them, what do we need, what programs, what services, what spaces to provide opportunities so you can thrive. So that's what we've looked at. But sometimes in organisations it's like, seriously, are there benefits? Why should we put extra time and resources into this? It's something extra we've got to do. The consultation timeline's tight. Yes, we need to capture demographics and make sure we've got some representation of young people, but when you go beyond that token, perhaps consultation, there are real benefits and opportunities for young people and for organisations or government in terms of being valued, being heard, having a say, skills development, connecting with local communities and networks. And for organisations, in terms of a rate capping environment, public value for money, we need to demonstrate that what we're putting on offer in terms of our services and our programs, our spaces, if we want to reinvent our libraries to become more, we want to get good use of our assets, we need to have some evidence base around that. And I think that's why I've sort of found myself working with some youth teams at the moment. but there's also benefits for the community. And we know if we want to involve young people in the community, it takes volunteers in sporting and community organisations. So we need to help them understand what they're dealing with so that those young people that need a place and space to be can actually have somewhere to connect. And because it can be good in a whole lot of ways. And I've got a couple of quotes up there from some of the adults that came along to a workshop about, we asked them what's great about young people. And they picked up on things like their openness, their hope, their well-being, or their sense of community, global well-being, their technological skills, their energy, their resilience, their positivity. There's some wonderful things about our young people, and sometimes they don't get an opportunity to thrive because they just don't get in the right space or have the right opportunity, whether it's at school, online, in the workplace. So if we can provide a way that we give them a voice opportunity, hear it, respect it and use it, then that's fabulous. So, then you might have someone in your organisation saying, well, why would their voice be, would it be really useful? They're just kids, right? But there's some things, and this young person that submitted this survey response, I don't know how clearly you can read that, and I know negotiating with my 17-year-old daughter at home too, you can't tell me that they don't have a firm idea, a sense of self, opinions. Yes, they're growing. Yes, when does our role as a parent turn into a role of a mentor? And I think that's something that we just need to be mindful of is we've got that adult-child relationship, and when we go and do engagement, sometimes young people see us, and see especially me, as so old and, what would I know and how can I relate to them? But it doesn't mean that I can't reach out and make a connection and listen and ask questions, and not just about youth services. But how do I make something like parks and rec spaces exciting to them? Because, what does it matter? And it's not going to happen now. It might be 2 years or 5 years down the track. Sustainability, we're seeing a lot of young people know more about sustainability and being the advocates to their families around, well, what are we doing with our recycling and waste? And we've heard over the conference how important those sort of things are, and behaviour changes are too. Transport, how are people getting to places? We talk about safety, pedestrian safety. As our suburbs and activity centres are getting higher density, we need to be able to move around in a safe and active way. We need to look how young people are making shortcuts to avoid places, and so that we can inform that in the way that we're creating spaces and they feel safe and can get around. Recreating our libraries, our community buildings into hubs that are somewhere that people want to go and hang out and provide a safe space, a quiet space, a social space that meets different needs. And the whole link between youth voice, participation, education, employment, how do we get local employment, thriving local activity centres, work local, live local, co-working spaces? How do we show these young people how many fabulous ways there are to work, in addition to working with large corporations that are doing great stuff as well? Sustainability, so we've got to find a way, I think, of making other things relevant, and especially when they're not going to see a new playground or youth centre or a skate park developed within the next 6 months. And then we hear, but they're a hard-to-reach group, and there's a lot of excuses, there's a lot of reasons that are coming through and barriers. If you have a look at some of the literature around youth engagement, and there's some fabulous resources being developed, so I think it's a really exciting time. But things around, our organisation doesn't use Instagram, so then how else do you find ways to connect? Experiences that young people have had in previous consultations, whether they've felt heard. Whether you need parent permission, whether you need working with children checks. Yes, there's some extra hurdles you need to do, but once you get them in place, then you can sort of get on with it. And you also need to bring young people along on the journey. Sometimes, and I've heard this at IAP2 events before, we jump into an engagement and we've already been in the project for 6 to 12 months, and then we're ready to launch. So we need to remember to bring our community along with this, and bring our young people along as well, and use words and labels that they get, and that make sense to them, not because they're not clever, but just because we need to find a way to try and encourage them to feel excited and interested in what we're trying to do. We might need to offer some transport and some support, some maybe some prizes, incentives, put a bit of fun around it as well. We may need to look at different ways and do things a little bit differently, but maybe not a lot. It's about just doing really inclusive, well thought through engagement. Schools can be a great mechanism to access young people, but they're also busy, and I would take your tip, if you can link it to curriculum some way and you're adding value and not asking for something, doors are more likely to open then. So approaches that acknowledge youth diversity, and that's what we've found with these youth strategies, is that you think that they're not young people. 10 to 12-year-olds will have different needs to 13 to 16-year-olds who will have different needs to 16 to 17, 18 to 20, and then so trying to come up with a youth strategy that actually captures and is meaningful for that broad age group means you need to segment it just like you would any other sort of we talked about generation and different sort of generations around the room, and it's even within that cohort of young people there's segments. So it's about being mindful and adapting for that. And to me, the smartest way to go about it is, if you've got time and you can pilot test, bring in some young people, whether it doesn't have to be a perfect sample, it can be a convenient sample of young people that are hanging out somewhere that I guess I'm really fortunate that I'm around young people with football and basketball and our community bank and things, so you get an opportunity to test and listen and ask. And make it meaningful, make the rewards something that work for them. Respect and use their input. I mean, I think we all know that, or have had experiences where perhaps we've gathered input and it's impacted decisions, other times it may not have. We need to be able to demonstrate that impacts or bring people along with the conversation as decisions are being made for those longer term projects. And make it fun. I mean, we can all make community engagement fun. Everyone likes it to be a bit of fun and creative, and using that inclusive language. And we just need to remember sometimes that they're not driving. Often being somewhere near public transport that's a safe place, or providing some money to support that. It's about trying to reduce those barriers that make it easy for them to say yes and come along. So, over to you. Just if you want to take a minute or two, how do you engage to raise youth voice? What strategies are you using to overcome barriers and raise youth voice in your practice? So over to you for some table-based discussion for the next minute, and if you want to put some hands up and share some strategies, that would be great. Okay, thank you. It sounds like, I'm sure there's some great ideas. Does anyone want to start with any little gem that they'd like to share? Or the strategy up the back, please.
I think that we have politicians that control kids, but I think we have child politicians that make decisions for kids. So
I've got a mic.
Yes, with the mic would be great. Thank you. Oh, come on, there's got to be a few out there. Yep, yep. Yep, and if they can influence, absolutely, and probably the sooner the better too, because once you bring them in, once things are done, you're not getting as much value as you perhaps could through the process. Anything else?
Avoid stereotypes. At Logan City Council, we've realised there's a lot of real and perceived barriers to engaging with under 25-year-olds. And we have recently released a guideline that is directed at council officers and decision makers to try and break down those real and perceived barriers so that we can include the voices of children, youth and young adults in all of our decision making.
And is that something that you could share?
It's called Listen to Connect, and you can find it. Search Listen to Connect Logan City Council, and you'll find it on our Have Your Say page.
Fabulous. Okay, that's a great takeaway. One more?
In response to the recent Royal Commission, we've developed a draft resource that we're trialling to provide it throughout the church for adults to listen to children and teach them how to do that and resource them in that area. And we just have a feedback loop and have included kids in the development. So we'll see how it goes.
Lovely, thank you for sharing. There's some great ideas, and hopefully you've had some other ideas come to through those last couple of minutes. There's just one project I've been working on with Glen Iris City Council, and I thought this was a really cool way to show different ways that you can engage with different age groups. And so what we've got with the consultation methods, we've looked at what works for 10 to 12s, 12 to 15s, 16 to 18, and then 19 to 25. And just sort of a bit of a thumbs up, thumb down about what the youth services team felt worked for those different cohorts, and just some comments around that. Connecting with youth, it should be connecting with young people strategies available at the City of Glen Iris website on their Have Your Say page too. There's some good resources out there, and I think it's just a nice one, especially if you're in that local government space or just wanting to have, or maybe new, or trying to bring people along with you on that consultation. And so how can you get the message across? There's been a few things that I've seen and that I've been part of. So whether it's getting people together for a bit of a youth assembly, a pop-up activity with democracy, voting pods, chat boards, drawing sheets for young people and having, writing down or interpreting that message with them so that you've got that contribution as well. Could be using Poll Everywhere in a set up like you've got here. So there's a whole lot of tools and techniques that we can use to apply that are a mix of face-to-face, technology-based, interactive, individual, pairs, group, that sort of thing. So plenty of activities out there. And what we've found is with the last lot of engagement we've just done is we asked our young people what they hoped for the future for the next 10 years, and we asked them about things that were of concern to them. And when you look at some of these comments, they're very thoughtful, very considered. And one of the secondary schools I'm working with at the moment saw some presentations by some primary school students and were blown away with them. So you can just see that for young people, even we have those assumptions or stereotypes that perhaps they can't articulate, or they may not be old enough or mature enough or developed enough to be able to have an opinion. So and reporting back's a really important one too. So just finding a way, whether it's the City of Port Phillip reporting back their resilience survey findings. They had 5,000 students do a 100-question resilience survey through schools. So one way that we found we could do that is a quick infographic back to schools, because teachers are time and principals are time poor as well. There was a Metro Partnerships, a youth assembly done there, and if we can get this to work, I'm not sure how I can do that. If we can just watch maybe 30 seconds of this YouTube, or maybe even 15 seconds of the YouTube video, then I'll finish up.
Hi. What I know is that there's going to be a lot in the next half an hour that we're going to do. I'm going to try and propose a kind of a model for effective youth engagement. And we're going to have, so that's what I know. What I don't know is that we're going to have a lot of young presenters, and I don't know what's going to happen when they get on stage. And I think that's part of youth engagement is trust, because I don't know what's going to happen. So thanks for being here. And I'd like to thank Ben Pennycook and Amelia Holloway, because Ben showed trust, because when I thought it would be good to have young people present and be at the conference, I put out a couple of text messages and social media posts and came across Ben and the Pacific Pines High School, and he responded with trust and doesn't know me, and I don't know the young people here, just met them the other day for the first time. So we don't quite know what's going to happen, but there's a lot to get through the next half an hour, so I'll get into it. There are people who would do anything, I can read off here. There are people that would do anything for kids except let them be themselves. I think it speaks for itself. We know this, the IAP2 spectrum. In some ways, this is not so much about youth engagement in my mind. In some ways, this is about a promise that we have with community or that we make, and it guides us in how we keep that promise, or what the promise is. So whether the promise is to let people know or to consult them, whatever that is. So it's not so much about how we engage. It still leaves a lot of gaps. I've been using this, working in the community engagement space, and it doesn't give you all the answers. It's not prescriptive, and it doesn't tell me how to engage. It just guides me on the promise that we're having with community. So the question for me then around youth engagement particularly... sorry. Yeah. How do we engage? So how do we engage in a way that helps us feel comfortable that engagement is serving a higher purpose? And what I mean by that is, on the surface, we can engage through a face-to-face meeting, we can engage through social media, we can have all of those ways of engaging, but what's the higher purpose of engagement? Why are we doing it? What is the purpose? This is how I spend my day. I think about this quite a lot. And I think in my mind, it's something that Jez said yesterday. Everything seems such a blur. Everything's happened so fast. But about, in the end, do people feel like they've had a say and do they have any sense of ownership over the place they're living? So to me, that's kind of a higher purpose. It's not just about getting the input, getting the data, getting the report, I'm done. It's at the end of the day, did they feel like they have a greater sense of ownership over the space they live? My background is as a screenwriter. I used to write for Home and Away, and that taught me a lot about community engagement. Storytelling seems to be a really significant thread, and I don't want it to be lost. It's not lost on me. Over the couple of days here, a lot of people have talked about the narrative and storytelling and using story to engage. So being a screenwriter as my background, I studied a little bit about Aristotle and poetics, and if anyone studied it, please don't quote me and don't, you'll have a lot of objections maybe to my interpretation, but Aristotle talks about higher purpose of drama and theatre being about the audience learning about their world and themselves by undergoing some sort of catharsis or transformation through watching, through action of the characters that they're watching, that they're participating in that. So perhaps the higher purpose of effective community engagement is not just the report that we're handing in, but it's about a transformation of some kind too. So, and here's some thoughts. So increasing sense of trust, increasing sense of relationship, sense of ownership, sense of connection, increasing sense of place, and sense of ability to participate in public life. Maybe that's what we're trying to do. So I don't, we won't talk about measures now and how we do that, but has there been a transformation? If you've delivered or participated in engagement, was there any kind of transformation? When someone surveyed you at the end of that survey, did you feel transformed? So this is where my thinking is for effective youth engagement. So Aristotle talks about 6 elements of drama: plot, theme, characters, dialogue, music, rhythm, and spectacle. And he talks about it in not that it makes a play or a story or a film better. He doesn't use those terms. It's about audience engagement, increasing the level of engagement in a piece. He refers to the word entertain, which is derived from a Latin word meaning to hold someone's attention. If anyone knows Latin, again, I say a lot of things and they could be disputed. That's my sense, that's my interpretation, to hold someone's attention. And I think when we're engaging, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to engage them and hold their attention for the time that we're doing the survey or having a face-to-face or whatever it is, but we're trying to hold their attention for a longer period than that too. We want their attention to be part of their community, to feel like they own and are part of their community. So I think it's relevant. So when I'm looking at a strategy for youth engagement and a strategy for community engagement more broadly, these are the things that I'm thinking of. So for me, this is, I need a graphic designer. This is a bad sort of design, but it gives you the idea. So at the top, the purpose and the why, what it's really about. So Aristotle would call that theme. Plot and theme are different. Plot is what happens on the surface. It's the narrative, what happens on the surface. The theme is what it's really about, the subtext, what's actually going on. I think that's relevant, and it's probably a good place to start. And so there's a why in the middle. So it's start with why. And anyone know Simon Sinek? Yep. So his Start With Why TED Talk, it's worth Googling if you haven't seen it. I think starting with why is the primary place to start. Why are we doing it? Is it really to tick the box? Is it really just because we want to get youth involved for our own sort of reasons? Why is it? And then if you go around to the right, the flow and the format. So Aristotle calls this music and rhythm, the flow. How it's delivered, being experiential and interactive, I think is important. I think poor youth engagement potentially is me standing here for a long time talking about this, and we've got young people in the room, and eventually, if they're not already bored, they're going to be bored pretty soon. So we need to change that. We need to change the format, and we will soon. The spectacle and surprise, I think, is really crucial. I think he included that as an important part of successful engagement in entertainment. And I think it's an important part. So people call it, make it fun. Let's do it in a fun way. To me, that the spectacle and surprise is really what it's about, because it makes you think, it makes you look. And there are ways of doing that, but having there as a pillar to think about, I think, is important. Some people use technology to do it, but it also can be emotional. A one-on-one personal chat with a human being can be actually quite spectacular. So it's not just about the big car crash or the big car chase or the big banner on the Westgate. There are other ways of being spectacular and surprising the people that you're engaging with. Next one, being fully inclusive. And when I mean fully inclusive, I don't just mean to the people that you know, but to all the prospective people that you're engaging. Who are you missing out on because you think you're being inclusive, or we're being inclusive, but we're not really, because those people actually can't participate anyway, or we think that they're not that interested. So I think fully inclusive, meaning everyone is welcome, and every prospective person who we could engage is invited to be part of that. Language, finding your voice, having a say. Aristotle says language is an important part of this, and I think it's true, and it's how we use it. And Dominic talked about being accessible, all of that sort of thing. But also, not just accessibility, but just different ways we use language, style, when we use it, sometimes less is more, just thinking about it in lots of different ways. And the last one being plot or narrative, change and transformation. So in a good plot, you'll notice there is transformation. A character transforms, we go through a journey, and things change by the end. And this is not, again, just because a story has a beginning, middle, end, that doesn't make it a better or worse story. Aristotle would say that it increases the audience's attention, their engagement. People expect a beginning. They expect an end. If you don't have a beginning and an end, it's not a worse story or a better story. You might lose people, that's all. So by having the narrative, by having the opportunity for the people that we're engaging to transform, increases engagement, I think. It increases the opportunity to engage with people. It makes people, it allows you to hold people's attention longer. So that's what I know, as I said, to propose, just for thought, and it's a constant thought in my mind about how I develop that, and I'm very open to conversations about it. Here's what I don't know. So never explain your philosophy, embody it. That's what they say. We're going to try and do that. So I'd like to invite Joanna and Armand to the stage, and we're going to allow Joanna and Armand to inform you. Take it away.
Okay. Well,
My name's Joanna, and with me is Aman, and I'd just like to thank you all firstly for coming here today.
We're here to inform you about a problem that many people face every day, whether it be school children or working adults.
Okay, now I'd like you all to raise your hands if you've ever procrastinated before. Yep, don't be shy, we've all done it, it's unavoidable. Okay, just to make sure we're on the same page, procrastination is putting off a task until the last minute.
This is thanks to technological advancements and its accessibility, which is leading more and more people to procrastinate daily.
I agree. Having the extra time is leading to overstimulation in ways like social media and gaming, which gives people more time to procrastinate and not do what they're supposed to do.
Aside from technology, procrastination is used as a subconscious defense mechanism for many people. Some fear the thought of failure, while others fear success and its associated responsibilities, while just a few want everything to be perfect, which leads them all to just put it off until the very last moments.
Okay, you might be all thinking to yourself, why are these people here? What are they doing? I didn't pay for this. I know what procrastination is. Okay.
Don't worry, we have some simple yet effective ways of dealing with it. Let's say that you have a youth strategy report to write.
Yeah, I do. Okay. If you're dealing with a large amount of work, you want to break it down into sizable chunks so you can put it on a timeline and view your progress over time. You can do each step individually and ensure that you get the right amount of work done, and this will give you a nice boost of dopamine, which is the hormone responsible for positive emotions.
Think of each chunk on your timeline as a fuel stop and dopamine as your gas. Every time that you reach a fuel stop, you're rewarded with more gas to keep you going until the next area and eventually finish your task.
That's good. Another super easy way to increase productivity is to change your environment. If you feel tired of working in the office or anything, you can just go outdoors and change it.
Your brain automatically associates the places where you work with personal experiences. Say, if you had begun to write the report in your bed, your brain would try to sleep as it's connected to the place where it rests. Sometimes, a change from your normal work environment can encourage your brain to think differently.
It probably seems obvious, but freeing yourself from distractions is the best way to stop procrastination. If the youth strategy report doesn't require technology, just turn off your phone. That may seem crazy, but you know. If it does, use an app that restricts social media and other forms of entertainment. Silence yourself from the day-to-day clutter of outside life and take a deep breath to think about what you have to do and when you have to do it by.
Jeez, you're going to kill someone?
No, I'm not, I swear.
Anyway, these 3 simple steps are a great help to any fellow procrastinators, so here's the best way to remember it. Okay, repeat after me. Break, change, remove.
Break, change, remove.
You have to break your work into smaller chunks, and you have to remove all distractions, and you have to change your environment so that you can get a new outlook on what you're working on.
Yeah.
Repeat once more. Break, change, remove. Break, change, remove.
And that is the last time we'll do that.
Thank you so much. I'd like to invite Matt and Felipe to consult you all. Yeah, if it's on, yeah. There's one, I'll give you another mic.
They're lucky.
There you go.
So once again, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, we'd like to thank you for coming. My name is Felipe, and this is Matthew. And today we're going to take a quick survey about youth involvement with the government.
Hey everyone, I'm Matthew. So our survey consists of 3 main questions and, if time permits, a 4th, but since we all want to go to lunch, we'll probably skip the 4th one. So can we please get a show of hands for people who work with youth in any capacity? You want to hold this while I write down?
Yeah, sure.
No, I don't want you. I just want to write down.
So we'd first like to ask some questions to you guys about... Oh, yes, please, if possible. So hands up, please.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, once more.
So first, we'd like to ask in what area you work in and how youth are involved.
I work in a church and my job is to
Okay, and in that, would you prefer more youth to be involved, and how would you?
So, like, do you have any strategies to, like, get more youth involved for them to, like, come to you and stuff?
Yeah, it's like for kids to be involved right from the start in planning activities and designing them and saying what they want and making it safe for them to.
Sure. Anyone else, please?
Okay, thanks.
Great.
So, second question?
Secondly, we want to get some of your opinions. So please, if you have a stance, raise your hand and we'll try to get to you. The question is, how can the government improve youth engagement with current affairs? And this is involving possible things like the local government making decisions that actually affect them.
Has anyone got an opinion? Yep. You. So just youth who are interested show up and then a representative talks to the council after that or something? Oh, yeah? Okay. All right. Thank you. Oh yeah, that might be useful. Anyone else got an opinion? Oh, yeah, over there. Oh, we missed.
Hi. I agree with the idea of youth committees, but one of the problems I find with youth is they're already quite engaged youth that put their hand up for that. And I did a bit of work in my former council with disengaged youth, and I spoke a lot to youth workers and said, how do I get them to come along? You know, can I throw $50 at them or whatever? And they went, nah, it won't work. But because they were disengaged youth, what we did was ran a course, like barista courses, like responsible service of alcohol. We paid for it. I also paid for lunch and lunchtime into, okay, you've got to pay me back, so I'm going to ask you some questions. At the end of the day, I got the most amazing feedback from people I would never have been able to engage any other way, and they got a qualification they could then take out, and I found that a really useful strategy.
So finding something that they see value in learning
Yeah,
about.
absolutely.
Okay.
And not just money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd probably take the money. Okay, so we're going to take the current voting age in Australia is 18, correct? Yep. All right. So we were wondering whether people think that the voting age should be lowered. So if you think that, can you raise your hand?
So that seems to be the vast majority. Now please keep your hands up, and as we go down from 18, put your hand down when you reach an age that you think is too young.
All right, so 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11? Was that 12 or 11? We'll call it 11.5.
And we just... yeah. 6 months.
Yeah.
And we'd just like to ask why you have that stance and why you believe that 11 is too young and why 12 might be more suitable.
I think it touches on a point that was raised earlier, or I think I might have read it in one of the previous things, is that years on this planet does not equal wisdom. And so I think that children have an innate wisdom, and I think that around that young age, they're still telling the truth. They haven't quite lost the fear of fighting on their
Oh, and one more thing. Vast majority of you seem to put your hand down at 16. Would anyone care to elaborate why 16 is... Oh, sorry, 15. Why 15 is too young? Anyone? Yeah.
I don't know, I'm not going to claim to know the science behind all of this, but given that 16 is sort of an age where you start to be able to understand consequences of actions and things like that, you start to learn how to drive and be given the responsibility to make decisions there. I think young people, a lot of the time, more informed about current issues and events than a lot of adults are. So, but I think they also have to have that understanding of the consequences of those actions and those decisions.
Okay, thank you. And that's all. Is that all right? Yep.
Yeah.
That's everything.
So finally, thank you very much for participating, and now on to the next activity.
Thank you, Sam. I told him 3 minutes. Can't trust young people. That's all right, it's fine. So bear with us. It's going to get fun. I'd like to invite Rachel and Samara to involve you all in a decision.
Hi everyone, my name is Samara and this is Rachel and we are from Pacific Pines State High School.
So today we will be running a debate that will include 2 people from the audience. We will have a speaker that is for the topic and a speaker that is against the topic.
The topic of the debate that will be discussed today is social media is a bad influence on the youth of today.
So each speaker will now have 30 seconds on the clock to discuss your response to this specific topic. So who from the audience would like to participate and go for the topic? And so who would like to go for the topic? For? Okay. And who would like to go against?
Who would like to go against me?
Who would like to go against? No one? No one? Yes? Okay, so we will now begin with the speaker that goes for the topic. So you can have 30 seconds now on the clock to say your opinion.
Okay, so, I can stand up. Social media is a good influence on young people because it connects everyone. It gives, I think, young people a voice and a very widespread, broad voice that can reach a lot of people. It can be a way of learning. It can be a way of connecting to, I guess, other cultures and regions around the world that they might not be familiar with from their own backyard. It's a way, God, I don't know, yeah, good.
That was a very good response. That was a very good response. So now we will go to the speaker that is against. Lovely lady over there, yes? Okay.
I'm just going to preface this with actually I don't agree with what I'm about to say.
That's okay, that's okay. Thank you.
The argument against social media for young people is that you cannot switch off from bullying, you cannot switch off from access to unmoderated topics like access to pornography, access to a whole range of really dangerous ideas. And it comes down to the fact that social media provides unfettered access to a whole lot of things that young people are not necessarily equipped to process, to discuss, or to reality check. And that's why we have spaces and places that are insulated from young people in that way.
That was perfect. Sorry, that was time. That was 2 very, very informed responses. So Samara and I are going to now just discuss a winner for this debate, and you will receive some lovely stickers that Paul has provided with us. So, I'm not going to speak in the microphone.
Sorry, okay. So the speaker that we have decided should win, or has a... You both had very good responses, but we would like to go for the against speaker, because it was a very, very detailed response. And we have some stickers here for you. I'll give them to you when we go down. That's everything that we have for today. Thank you.
Two more, yeah. Great. Just hold those for a sec. I'd like to invite Zaid and Will for you to collaborate on a decision. You know where this is going. That's great. Take it away.
This is a very big palm card. Very big.
Good afternoon. My name is Zaid and this is Will.
And these balls of wool represent connections.
Connections to the content of this conference and to each other.
Keep a hold of some string when you pass it or throw it, so it creates a tie between you and the person receiving it.
Make sure everyone gets to make a connection.
Are we ready? Go, Joanna Saunders. Go, Zaid. Go, come on.
You hold on to the
Speed them up as fast as you can.
Come on, guys, let's do this.
No, you hold on to it.
Couple of minutes, get it all around the room. Is all the wool gone?
Yeah, two pieces.
Hey?
You got to keep holding.
Oh, okay.
Well,
That's right. Yeah, that's right. So it's got to represent your view of community.
this is not going to be easy to untangle.
Make sure everyone gets it. Couple of
That's
minutes.
not the back. Oh, wait, no, never mind. There's one up there.
This is very messy.
That's what I said.
Think we were right? Have you guys got anything to add? Or
No.
No, that's right. That's right.
You can say no, cool.
No, that's good. That's good. All right. We invite you to keep doing that. We're going to do the last one. Keep doing that. And we invite you to stay like this for lunch. At least to the end of the session. So thanks, Will and Zaid, very much.
Thank you.
Oh, the microphone. You can keep holding that. Take it into the ground. And while you're doing that, you can keep doing that. I'd like to invite Caden and Sydney to empower you.
Okay, so hey guys, my name is Sydney and beside me is Caden. We're here to talk about the top tier of our IAP table, Empower.
Perhaps the most efficient method of empowering is effective communication, relaying ideas and rebuttals in a way that ensures everyone has their say.
However, communication with younger people often hits many snags, especially in today's technology climate, the era of information.
So we ask you, how can this roadblock be overturned? How do we ensure that we can effectively communicate with young people? Does anyone have any ideas they want to share?
Any idea is a good idea.
My kids' football club, instead of putting up a flyer on the internet to say we need players this year, I'm going to get the players to do a video about why it's important rather than supporting all parents.
Do we have anyone else? We have the mic box at the back.
I don't want to speak, but I've got the box. Oh, sorry.
Anybody want it?
Yeah, down the front.
What?
How about involving youth in a shared activity, like, for example, planting a veggie patch or doing some craft together and then getting them talking through that?
Shared activities, nice. Do we have anyone else? At the back there?
Oh, God. Can we have a middle catcher? Over there, yep.
Where is that? Okay. Hanging out in malls, skate parks, wherever you find youth, and just talking, engaging in the activities they're already engaged in.
Right. And just this last one down here at the back, did you have an idea?
Most powerful thing I've taken from this conference so far is the opportunity to take part in the yarning circle. So in my council, we have a youth council, so I really want to establish that yarning circle with our youth council and our Indigenous representatives. So.
Okay, cool. They're all awesome ideas. What we were thinking is that the biggest problem that we see between communities and youth engagement is cross-generational communication.
Yeah, we believe it's that lack of real understanding that the young people who's like, oh, the adults, they don't know us. And it's the adults that think, oh, those young hoodied youths don't understand the world at large. And we think that is really the biggest problem, is that lack of cross-generational empathy, if anything.
So now we propose to you, what do you think we can do to bridge this gap? Where just take away from today, talk amongst each other, the biggest idea or the main point that you can decide on to bridge the gap.
Maybe you discuss at each table, and then and then each table can say one thing, and then we might do a vote. So empowering you to make the decision. What's the one takeaway? So just have a quick chat at your tables, and then we'll do a little vote. I know, that's okay. That's okay. Yeah, no, that's right. The mark is up there. Whenever you're ready. Come on, together. Yeah.
Okay, everyone. I think now would be a good idea to maybe share the ideas that we have. Is there any group of people here that want to establish their idea first of all? Is it going to be like school where I have to pick people out?
I was going to say, I've got the microphone anyway. Could I, or do you want me to throw?
No, you've got the microphone.
This is sort of an old concept, but the retirement villages and the youth and the kids all coming together. So you see it happen every day. See more of that, because I think the elderly also have something to contribute to with what they've lived through and what they've seen. And we seem to forget that they were young once too. So, and also the youth can contribute as well. So I think it's a two-way partnership, and that needs to be further progressed. So
That's good, getting two extremities together. Yeah.
Yep.
I think we need to give youth more of an opportunity to have the microphone in their hands. We've had events where the children have come in with the parents, and we've just sort of encouraged it more and more, and they've helped us diffuse community angst, because they're hearing it from kids, this is why we want this, or we don't want this, and it just shuts them down because they're too embarrassed, or they better have a better rebuttal than what the young voice has said. Anyway.
Nice. So, do you want to move just to this group here to your left?
Yeah.
Youth voice.
I don't know.
Okay, well, we have someone over here would like to speak.
Firstly, I just wanted to say you guys are inspiring, the young people who are in this room today. But what I think youth can do is actually talk directly to decision makers, talk to your counsellors and actually say, we have a voice that we want to share, because too often it comes through a third party, a really inspired adult that wants to talk to the decision makers. But I think it's more powerful when it comes directly from young people.
Yeah, very good. At the back here, I think wants to speak.
Oh no.
Show us your best throw.
All right, I'm going to, a middleman. Someone want to catch it and pass it
on? When talking to youth, go to them rather than expecting them to come to you, and also have sort of a broader idea of what youth is rather than stereotypes of, oh, we'll go to a PCYC or a skate park, sort of think a bit wider about the different types of youth.
So actually going directly, I think that's probably all the time we have for ideas, sadly. So what we've got over on the board, we have retirement villages, sort of getting the two extremities together. We have giving the youth a microphone and a direct voice, talking directly to them, going directly to them, and the same two options are pretty much the same, aren't they? So we have retirement homes, sort of, getting the old people and the younger people together, those two extremities. They're giving the youth a voice and then going to the youth themselves. So how about for that first one? How many hands do we have for that? We'll just go visual for now. Who likes that first idea there? Some people. That second idea? Giving them a direct voice?
Oh, yeah.
I think we found a winner there. But is there anyone that really wants to, go directly to them? There's also... So maybe we just combine those as an effective strategy to really empower you. Maybe just combine those last three together, really. Yeah. Thank you very much.